Hello everyone, welcome to the video series on how to build a red team cyber range um, infrastructure or lab. In the previous video, which was just introduction, we stopped at building the virtual network setup, right? So in this video, we are going to concentrate on building the virtual network schemes and also build our first virtual um, gateway or router, which is going to be a glue among the three domains we are going to build in the future. I did make a slight modification to the virtual network, and that was the external forest IP address scheme. I wanted to just make it consistent across all of them to make them private IP address. So those who watched the previous video, I think we had this as 65.65.1.0 by 24, and I wanted to just I went back and I was just thinking, I was like, yeah, let me just make it consistent and make all of them internal IP address uh, ranges. So that is the only change. In this video, this is what we are going to focus and concentrate on: building a gateway which is going to serve as the glue or the router among the three domains we'll be building in the future. All right, so let's dig in into the lab itself and let's start building something. So to start off, this is the machine that I'm building all the labs on, and if you look on the side, I have some pre-built images. As we go on a journey, this line is going to keep increasing because we have more images that we'll be building, but these are just base images for now. Before we start, we are going to build or configure the virtual network editor from Workstation, Windows Workstation, so you can get it from here, the edit, and then go here. We are going to create three of these, right? If you go back to our template, we actually have three of them here, right? So let me actually drag this on the side so I can see it as we go along. And so let's create a first virtual network or subnet. So we click on edit, and let's just select, let's say 2, and create OK. So the first is going to be for the forest, which is 10.10.0, I'm sorry, .2.0, and then we'll hit apply. So it will stop everything and generate the CP settings for us. So if we go here, let's just trim this down to say 1 and give us up to 5. What is going to happen is it's going to assign the first IP addresses to our gateway once we attach it to these interfaces. So we'll have at least a DHCP assigned IP address, and we can modify them in the future and just make it static. So that is for the our root forest, yeah, 10.10.2.0. Just to make sure that we are not guessing which one is which, we can actually rename the interface name. So we can call this forest, just to make it easy for us. And then let's add the one for the child domain, which is GH. So we select VNet3, and let's assign that 172.100.2.0, and then we click apply. And you can choose any IP address ranges you want for your subnet. You don't have to follow the same sequence that I'm using. And let's go and then make that also consistent, and let's make it 1.2.5.5, and let's rename it GH. Okay, and then the last one is going to be for the external forest. And if you guys can see, we are selecting the host only because we don't want to have internet access to a lab environment. For the gateway though, we'll still maintain the NAT so that we'll be able to continuously update the server so it doesn't become vulnerable to any future disclose or discover vulnerabilities, right? So for the external, we have 192.168.2.0, and let's hit apply. Okay, and let's do the JCP stuff. Okay, 5, and let's rename it and call it external. Okay, so now we have our virtual network interface set up. Let's go up and then power up our gateway. Just logging in right now to the gateway, and we are going to make some configuration changes to it, and we will let's see. Okay, crap. Okay, okay, so what we are going to do is, let's first of all check the IP addresses if we got anything, which I don't think we have because we have not attached those interfaces to it. But if you check, we are just going to have only one IP address, which is coming from the NAT IP address. So let's attach those 3 interfaces to it. All right, so we go to add and network. Okay, then we'll select this one right here, and then we'll add another one, and we'll select the GH and add, and we will select the external. Okay, all right. Now when we check the IP address, come on now, and we still don't have it, and it's still loading. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we have this is the external, this is the child domain, the GH, and where is the other one? This is the forest, right? Now these are assigned through DHCP IP address, which was given by the virtual network interface. Let us go and make these permanent. So in the first place, let's actually rename all of them so that we know which is which, because still we can't even tell which is which here, right? So let's pick up the first one, and then we look at the details, and then we have the MAC address here. It ends with 35, so we can go here. Okay, yeah. Okay, so the forest is 35, right? So this one right here. So we'll call that, we will name it as the forest. Okay, and then the Ethernet 2. Three F, think that would be a GH. Yeah, GH, subnet GH. So 2 will be GH, and lastly the Ethernet 3 is 49, and let's see. Yep, so external is 49. Okay, so let's go into Forest first and make some changes, and let's turn off IPv6 for now, and let's assign a static IP address. We'll just copy these and paste them here. So Forest is 10.10.2.2, so we gave it 2, and let's actually make this 255.255. all right. We are not going to touch the gateway right now because it is going to be a gateway itself, so we'll leave everything empty for now. So that will be for the Forest. The GH is the 172-ish, and let's turn off the IPv6 for that too. One 72.100.2.2, and let's add. Okay, what is going on here? Okay, all right, and that'll be 192.168.2.2. okay, all right, so let's see, and let's refresh it. It's still loading. All right, so now we have an IP address assigned to all of them, statically. So now we are going to do one more thing, because this is going to be a router. We could just turn off, ping, specifically, but I'll just turn off firewall in general, so it doesn't interfere with any flow of information between and among hosts, since it's going to be a gateway. All right, so that one is also going to be turned off. So now let's do one more thing. Let us change the computer's name to B01. Okay, and let me pause it, and then I'll come back once we're done with reboot. So we are back. Let's log in, and our next task is we are going to actually add the role. So we go to, and I'm having issues with so I guess you guys can follow along. So we just click next, 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 and we are going to add the remote access role. All right, so check that, and then we'll click next, and we'll click next, and then we are going to add the routing role. I guess it has it too. So yeah, so then there will not be a need for a restart, but just check it. And okay, so that is going to continue with the installation, and I'll pause the video and I'll get back once the installation is completed. Okay, so the installation is complete. Let us click to finish, and then we can go to tools and begin our configuration. So we will go to the route and remote access, and have that open up. Let me expand it. So we'll go to the machine and right click, and then go to configure and enable routing and remote access, and it's going to walk us through some few steps. So in this case, these are the configuration options we have before us. We are only interested in this one right here. The NAT allow internal clients to connect to the internet using only one public IP address. So we'll click next, and it's asking us which one is going to have the public connection interface. We are going to pick the NAT IP address for that, which is going to be the Ethernet 0, and we'll click next, and it's going to ask us select the network that will have shared internet access. In this case, let us pick the Forest one, and then click next. And here it's asking us to set up a DNS or DHCP. For the sake of our lab purposes, we will create these individually for each domain. So we'll pick the second option. I will set up name and address services later, and then let's click next, and then we'll click finish, and it will do its own thing. All right, so now the next thing we'll be doing actually is, let's go into IPv4, and then if you go to general, we will see the different subnets or the different IP address blocks. We are going to, if you click on the NAT, we actually see only the forest. So we are going to add a new interface and then add the other two to it. All right, and then we'll make sure that we check this one right here, private connection. We'll do the same thing for the other one. Okay, and again, private interface connected to the private network, and that's it. That is all. So right now we should have a working gateway, and of course we need to make sure that this is actually working. So let us once again check the IP address assigned for each interface. We have the 10.10.2.2, we have the 192.168.2.2, and then we have 172.100.2.2. So these are going to be the individual gateway for each of the subnets. So let us check and see if we can actually ping machines and make sure that the routing is actually working. So let's start up Windows 2 workstations, and then assign them IP addresses and see if they can ping each other. All right, so I'm going to pause the video whilst I start up these two Windows machines for test of connectivity. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so the two Windows 10 machines are up and running. So let us first check and see which interfaces they are connected to. So yes, so I have this connected to the forest, and actually let me remove it and get it back in just to make sure that it's not picking anything weird from previous things. Okay, so let's add a network interface, and let's give it a forest. Okay, so that should give it an IP address of 10.10. something. Okay, and this one, let's see what it got. This one has the external. Again, let me remove it, and let me actually give it the GH, which will be the child domain. And if everything works right, that should give it the 172. Okay, so now let's log in. Log into the other one. Okay, so this is the first Windows 10 machine. Let's bring up the command prompt and let's check out. Let me make the font a bit bigger. Okay, so if I do the IP address, this one gave us this IP address, and because it's connected to the GH subnet. And let's look at this one too. Let's increase the font for this one as well. 24. Okay, and this one has a 10.10.2.3. All right, so let's first of all try to ping the gateway. Make sure that, okay, so pinging the gateway from this one works. And let's see, this one pinging its gateway 172.100.2.2, and that should work. Now let's try if we can ping the 10.10.2.3, which is this machine right here, if that one works. Okay, so we're getting a general failure. And if we try to ping from here, 7, yeah, well, we'll talk about that actually, about turning off firewall. So let's dot, oops, 3, that should have a general failure. The reason why that is happening is even though we got an IP address set up, we still don't have a gateway actually set up on this box because it got the IP address through a DHCP. So what we have to do is we need to go in and then actually provide static input. So let's go and let's go to Ethernet. And let's go into network sharing center, and let's go here. So this one was given an IP address of what? Yeah, so we come here, and let's go to properties, and let's turn off IPv6. Now in the future I'll do a demo on how an attack against IPv6 can be executed during internal pen test for a cool system compromise. So this one was assigned this and that, and let's make it exactly how it looks like. Now we are going to provide this with a gateway which is connected to, and that is a 2.2, then 172.100.2.2. And for the sake of connectivity, we'll just provide the DNS here as 8.8.8. We will make adjustment in the future as we build our labs, but for now, for the test, for the connectivity test, we'll just let them use Google's DNS IP address. So now let's go back and do the same thing for this one too. And okay, me see. And this one was giving an IP address of 10. Okay, so if we go to properties and turn off IPv6 and then assign static IP address and 10.10.2.3, and I know the network guys will kill me for butchering their net mask calculation stuff, but like I said, I'm not a professional. I don't claim expertise. So, all right. So now we are going to assign the gateway here as well, and let's give it this DNS IP addresses. Okay. All right. So now let me kill this one right here. Okay, so this one has this gateway, and now this one has a gateway, right? So now if we try to ping this machine, voila, now we can talk to this box right here, right? So connectivity is now working. All right, so we could have just whip up another box and then connect it to the forest, the external interface, and do the same configuration, but I'll leave that up to you to do that. But for now, I think we have accomplished what we needed to do for this particular segment of the video, and that was to build our first device or virtual device, which will be the gateway. The gateway is supposed to provide sort of information flow among machines so that when we build our domains, the forest, the child domain, the external trusted domain, there will be a good flow of information among them so we can set up some attack techniques in the future, right? So that is it. Once again, thank you guys for your time. If you haven't, I'll encourage you to subscribe to the channel for more videos in the future. We'll keep adding, make some adjustment as we go along. And thank you again. See you next time. Bye bye.